This is NESN Sports Today, presented by People's United Bank. We'll have all the day's news and hear from the newest member of the Bruins coming up. But we come to you with a heavy heart tonight as we mourn the loss of our friend and colleague, Nick Cafardo. He passed away today while covering Red Sox spring training in Fort Myers. Nick apparently suffered an embolism at the ballpark. He was 62 years old. The Red Sox releasing a statement tonight. We are saddened by the sudden loss of longtime baseball reporter Nick Cafardo. For over 3 decades, Nick was a fixture at Fenway Park and throughout ballparks across the country. His coverage was as consistent as the game itself. His opinions on the Red Sox and the most pressing issues facing Major League Baseball were a constant, particularly through a prominent Sunday baseball notes column in the Boston Globe. The Cafardo family will always be a part of the Boston baseball family, and the Red Sox will honor Nick's legacy at the appropriate time. Here now is more as we remember our friend. If you're a baseball fan in Boston, you know the name Nick Cafardo. For decades, Nick covered the Red Sox for the Boston Globe and for just as long did work for us here at NESN.
Hi, this is Nick Cafardo with this week's Diamond Notes.
In fact, he was a reporter with the Patriot Ledger when he made his NESN debut in 1984, the year the network launched.
In our second segment today, we'll be talking with beat writers that cover the Boston Red Sox on a daily basis. Nick Cafardo, who writes with the Quincy Patriot Ledger.
From there, he became a staple on the network during baseball season, whether it was talking Sox or traveling across the country to bring us the latest on what was happening in the league. The Boston Globe's Nick Cafardo joins us from Kansas City now. We'll talk about tonight's starter Rick Porcello. And in 2008, he was on the air during NESN's trade deadline special, breaking news that Manny Ramirez had been traded.
Dodgers get Manny Ramirez, and the Red Sox will get Jason Bay.
Year in and year out, Nick appeared on Red Sox pre- and post-game coverage, keeping viewers informed and his loyal readers as well. Beyond the pages was a kind man, a man with a great sense of humor. Someone that we not only looked forward to working with, but enjoyed being around.
You clean up nice.
We will miss him. Jerry Remy joins us on the phone. Jerry, just your thoughts on Nick's passing.
Well, an absolute shock. I got a call from someone with the Red Sox this afternoon, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You know, I yesterday I just spoke with Nick for about 15 minutes. Yesterday, everything seemed fine. He seemed in good spirits. You know, he was laughing, joking, talking about camp, and all of a sudden the next day he passes out and falls to the ground and he's dead. It's just a shocking story and a horrible story. Nick was a great guy. You know, he's a good friend of NESN. We had him on, many a times, obviously, on the pregame show and, during games. And, just an incredibly shocking story. I'm stunned by it. Well, I've known Nick for a long, long time, and we got very close over the last year and a half. We have been working on a book. And, of course, when you work so closely with somebody for such a long period of time, you get to know him very, very well. And Nick was a true professional at what he did, both with the newspapers, writing books, whatever he chose to do. And that was very evident by his Sunday column in the Boston Globe, where, it would be the first thing for baseball fans to reach for on a Sunday was go to Nick's column and see what was going on around baseball. He had many, many sources all over the league. Yeah, both leagues, obviously, and, just a real professional at what he did. And you could tell that he wrote with a home twist. He was from the area, a local guy, and understood what New England fans are all about.
True professional indeed. He will be missed. Jerry, thank you very much for your time.
Okay, Adam.
Hall of Famer Tom Glavine also wrote a book with Nick Cafardo. The Billerica native tweeting this: so sad to hear about the passing of Nick Cafardo. Enjoyed working with him on a couple of occasions. Great baseball mind and writer. He will be missed. Here's Tom Caron in Fort Myers.
Peter Abraham of the Boston Globe joins me now. Peter, a devastating loss and shocking news today. Nick Cafardo, if you were going to central casting for a baseball writer, I mean, he was what everyone thought a baseball writer should be.
Yeah, I mean, there's not too many quote-unquote national baseball writers left anymore in our business, and Nick was really, sort of the ubiquitous national baseball writer. He was always at the World Series, at the All-Star game, at the winter meetings, the GM meetings. He knew everybody in the game, and I don't think I ever had a conversation with him that lasted more than a few minutes, because somebody was always texting him or calling him, wanting to talk to him about something to do with baseball. And he loved it. He loved being at the park. He loved everything about the people at the park, the atmosphere. At one point during the World Series, in that long Game 3, he turned to me and said, "Isn't this great?" And that's how he was. He just loved everything about baseball.
Seeing him here at spring training, it was in his element, covering the team and being around other reporters. And in this business, it's hard for anybody to be universally liked. Nick Cafardo was universally liked. He had done so many nice things to so many people. There aren't many people like that.
Yeah, there's countless people at the Globe who worked as part-timers or interns who now have jobs full-time in the industry, who would come to me and say, "Hey, Nick meant so much to me. He gave me this great advice. He helped me get my job." And there are people I run into every day at JetBlue Park, at Fenway, at parks across the country who say, "Hey, how's Nick Cafardo doing? Tell Nick Cafardo I said hi." And it happens all the time. And it's a tough business. He lasted for a very long time in a high-profile, high-pressure job. He loved the Globe. He loved baseball. He loved journalism. And it's going to be hard for a lot of us to it's not going to be the same without Nick around.
I know he was instrumental in your coming to the Globe.
Well, yeah, he called me one day. I was in New York covering the Yankees, and he said, "Hey, I think there's a job here that you'd be good for." And I said, "Well, I've applied to the Globe a couple times. It's never worked out." And he said, "Well, let me see what I can do." And about a month later, I was hired by the Globe, and it changed my life. I got to come home. I'm from Massachusetts, got to be around my parents, be around my nieces and nephews. None of that would have happened without him. And I used to always say to him, "Nick, I can't tell you how much I appreciate this." And he would always say, "Oh, be quiet. You don't need to tell me." And I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. But he was, he was somebody. How many people can you really say who aren't your relatives changed your life? And Nick was a guy who changed my life.
He came on this show regularly. We used to love to debate rule changes. He didn't want anything to change. He loved this game. He was a purist because he thought this game was perfect.
Yeah, Nick loved baseball in 1968, and as far as he was concerned, it should have stayed the same. And every time something would come up, a different analytic or a different way of doing things, he would always say, "Oh, this is terrible." And then 2 months later, he would grudgingly agree that maybe it wasn't such a bad thing and that he would consider it. And we used to have a lot of debates about those kind of things, but it was always fun. It was always lighthearted. And he would need to be convinced that something was good before he would kind of think about it. And then even with the Hall of Fame, he loves things like that, talking about who should be in the Hall of Fame. And he loved going to the Hall of Fame to see the inductions, all the stuff about baseball that makes baseball so great. That was what Nick really loved.
I know it's a difficult day for everybody at the Globe and everybody here. Thanks for coming on, Peter.
Yeah, thank you, TC.
Peter Abraham from the Boston Globe. All of us were lucky enough to read Nick Cafardo's work for decades. A smaller group of us were lucky enough to get to know Nick Cafardo. We are all devastated today. Nick Cafardo, at the age of 62, has passed away.
A closer look at Nick's resume. Joined the Boston Globe in 1989, joined us here at NESN in 2001 as a Red Sox analyst, but had been on the network prior to that. He covered the Patriots as well in his time there, and of course, there was a Sunday Baseball Notes column in the Globe. And a number of his colleagues expressing their condolences on social media, honoring a man who was so well respected in the field, a class act and a friend to so many. Our thoughts are with Nick's family. He's survived by his wife Leanne and 2 children, Ben and Emily. More after this.